No, they'll hit the streets and they'll do this. Water.
Thank you. Oh, it had to do with running, like we did everything. Something right, right beside it.
Yeah. There's two entrances. Yeah, you're like, oh, here, this. That's great.
Can everybody work together? Time is 6:30. I call the council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need section F, presentation forward. So we're going to do the introduction of our police officer Josh Mason, oath of office and the badge pinning. Chief Briggs will administer the oath of office, and Mrs. Mason will do that. Chief.
Mayor, council, good evening. It's an exciting time here in Bartonville, Texas. This is the first one officer I'm getting to swear in today, today, obviously. Before I swear him in, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Josh. Officer Josh Mazan is originally from Blinn, New Mexico, where he began his public safety career as a firefighter EMT. He later enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard as a fireman. And after completing technical training, he served as a flight medic in both the North Atlantic and Bering Sea. During his service, he also volunteered as a firefighter EMT in various communities he was stationed at. Josh retired from the Coast Guard as a chief petty officer. Following his retirement, he worked as a critical care technician and later as a park ranger in San Marcos, Texas. And then he decided to go to the police academy in 2020 down in San Antonio. Since then, Josh has served as a police officer with 3 different agencies. Most recently with the Tioga Police Department, we have the Representative Chief Macon back here, and Lieutenant Alan Dorr. I've known those guys for a few years. Thank you, Chief, for bringing them to us. He currently holds an intermediate police officer license as well as an advanced EMT license. Josh has been married to his wife, Carlene, for 23 years, and they've been together for 28 years. They have 3 sons, Dominique, 23, Nathan, 22, and Hunter, 16, who's here with us. A fun fact about Josh, he wanted me to share this, which is a fun fact. He has traveled to all 50 states, including visiting the northernmost, southernmost, easternmost, and westernmost points of the United States. Wow. Josh? Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Josh Mason,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of police officer of Bartonville
of the office of police officer in Bartonville
for the town of Bartonville,
for the town of Bartonville,
and will to the best of my abilities
and will to the best of my abilities
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the
and
Constitution
defend the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
and the ordinances of the town of Bartonville.
and the ordinances of the town of Bartonville.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
May hurt. You want to get Hunter?
All right, look it up here.
Come on, Hunter. The historical moment, trust me, in 30 years, he'll look back and go, man, I got more gray hair now. Congratulations. Look forward to having you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Josh, for coming on the good job.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
For your service. Closed session. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, #551, the town council may take an executive session in accordance with the Texas Government Code. Number 1, section 551.071, consultations, town attorney, city legal advice to attorney regarding legal issues related to the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction, issues related to the First Ranch development, and issues related to emergency access to and neighboring property, and any and all legal issues related thereto. Number 2, section 551.071, consultation with town attorney to seek legal advice of its attorney regarding legal issues related to the Waste Connections contract, solid waste request for proposals, and procedures and any and all legal issues related thereto. Number 3, section 551.074, personal matters to deliberate and consider the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of public officer, employee to wit, town administrator. Time 6:35 when you close session. Yeah, my God.
Yes, sir.
Let's do that. Right, let's try it.
Don't need to recognize.
You get it right there, thank you. Carlene, you might get one with your Josh in here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No. Let's see, hold on. There we go. Okay, I got a few.
Hey, guys. I see all there. Josh, we'll see you later. Nice
Oh,
to
there you
meet
go.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Hunter,
Nice to
take
meet you
care.
again. See you later. You'll still nice to meet you.
I will.
I can get mine.
And I'm part of it. Okay, so yeah. What is it?
They did. I can't.
Every open they go there. I can't say much.
It's not that much different. But I did.
I never saw that. So. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
I'm not sure whether that. This is you. It's kind of like a little bit skin fuzz. Anyway, I called me 16 hours.
They have a special.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
This failure.
Oh, yeah.
It's no break the service. I went to Bolivia 2 weeks later. Started practicing social security and I'm telling you, you're telling stories that I'm listening to you have been there, done stupid stuff too, and I'm thinking, going back and thinking, some years later, like.
Yeah. Probably.
I'm sitting that's really wrong.
If you would have to.
No, you made it on my meniscus.
And.
And John, you know. Dr. Bill said, you gotta get your knees on your schedule because we gotta have you ready for that operation. You know. I don't think I heard your account. Feels like you don't have to say it. And I was just gonna say, I know one, you didn't do it, help you, tell me to give out to my. After the work time, I get up. No learning here. Let me just say that I get test boundaries. Cute tennis shoes. These tennis shoes have been to Sicily, they've been to all kinds of places, they have all sorts of addresses.
Yeah.
This is I'm always like really clean. I never know if you embarrass Susie by taking a park.
I think.
No, I-
Thursday.
He was an absolute. Very successful speech. So successful that 2.5 hours after, which is great, but I needed to leave at 2 hours. Yes, he's. Be close, but you know. Last there, I said.
It's really amazing.
Thanks.
But things were not going well, and so I called them. Because they all said. They were that. So. Apparently that was best case scenario scheduled to. From gardening. The American now shows the doors. Yeah, I actually. So I called and I was like, the next available flight would have you done it. This is like. So, you know, I mean, I just learned.
Oh, yeah.
So.
So the fun. You could have done it. That's the bad thing, it shows that. Doesn't matter. That's what.
When I got to the place, that it had.
He's a.
What is this smell? Then yes, the bus. To the
But right now.
sidewalk.
I'm always coming to the school.
Feeling excited, LAX, even when clear region takes 15 none of those are part. Okay, it's 5Ks. You just get on.
Well, it's just. They're actually.
And then find this one, so everybody was trained.
So trust me, some way of solution. A little bit, because of this.
I mean, so it's very serious.
The first time. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but I gotta be sure that. County did pretty sad. County did, you know. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they point out that you do their papers. Everybody be there to try to pay us.
I should say some.
Yeah, he lives in all.
So what was?
The problem is still. Now it's like. Basic elementary.
Should have
The practice.
their decisions.
The way they're built.
Right.
That's right.
They didn't.
They just-
They didn't run first. That's what they only use my second.
Yeah, just move that, like, double
And so.
that way.
Yeah.
They being or something. In the vote. But it's not
That's
that.
absolutely not. She says, no, it's-
They said he went good. I want to see the face. It's gonna be interesting. And I told them, I had one about it, and I said, next time. If you voted and double check, you're gonna have to find that, whatever you want to make that. So. Some areas you can still do that, but areas you don't snap, so you park your area can be not. That's how.
No. Okay. So. It's, they're amazing. They were still.
But that's the reason I told you, so that's. You still have to get it.
Because she actually wants that.
That's still. Safety.
Seems okay.
So probably Thursday, I'm gonna start Yeah. Back. I think to the work session and. I keep asking, I was like, what else you done? And you're not. You. I gotta be around my hands back. I didn't know that. I said, we were $2 million. I was just trying to do it. So he's in the place, I guess, it's like a kid from somebody else, and he's going on. But I think it's the rest of the now, I think it was, because they gave you an input. Or they did. It was something. It was like, this one said he was good. I didn't. No, I don't.
Like, I'm kidding, because it's like, I should have got I asked her, I was like, are you a dog? It's not broken. I'm just gonna take care of you. And that's a serious question. I was like, you know, I was like, I come out next week.
They're still styles. Oh, they go, they.
You cannot keep them. So that you know, there's some radio.
Are they the same company for some reason? But they don't have. They have one.
You know, when you think of food, you don't like your like kids. Like,
And then the business can be.
it's very sensitive.
The ones for. What do you call that? That same company plays those two. It's then the way it builds.
You know, but
It's not the same. So when they finish, they'll play, ship it to senders, they be better.
I saw it.
They can go. No, because.
I know.
Everybody's. Trust me, when you go,
And it's so.
I will say this, it's robust. I saw it. It's not. That's risky. I looked at some other names, but it was policy.
I know.
I mean, they're, you know, easily found people. The next busy vehicle, we came. They were just basically in the heart. You know, what we had, so basically every day we all. It was young dogs. He's running with his old. Matter of fact, when you were to do DC. So I think we'll get to say. If we need. We should have balls. Leave that alone. To take it down.
He isn't scared by his special. That's Jim Burgess. He was, I believe.
It's her fault. We used to make it fun. You know? I've heard of it. With station fiber. We need to kind of, so I told my, what do you do? Ones against. So we need to keep track. It's already. At least. Yeah. Yes. And their tip is not close to that. They don't do that. What a lot of yeah, that's what you do. What I was thinking, it was just we made this. Well, that should be the same thing. To me, every year we use this. The once go ahead and I'll check, you know. All that. So. The sweet system will be unexpected. And I want to do that, I said, I'm gonna make this. Yes, business page. That way I can check it with me. And then just start looking at it. I'm sure I was saying focus on the. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
And said, nice to meet you. They sit your plan out.
You do?
And I have been going through our senses. And it was so striking, no reason why I can't.
They,
Because
that stole the land. All of this down. No, it's, we used to have it. Yeah, that's how wrong, you know. He said, well, what can we do? I said, well, I don't get you get it all stacked up and get it back. I don't want to get it 20 like 20 birds. We want to 10 or 10 or something. Yes. Yeah, you get out
well,
there. I said, some things we're not going to have. All the paper.
financial space. No Bartonville.
He asked, okay.
My dad was a developer.
I told him like this, I don't do. I would put it. I didn't think the people, you know, who was expecting to get back. And doing that, because you're already in the people. What there's something, I don't know, I was going to go that was. It's that, thing that he's throwing, that's what we got, all they was the pushing. Yeah. Because I didn't. For that, so only here on your national. Some here, so. But he had those temporary. I mean, yes, yeah, yes. She's 3 hours.
Well, I am from Texas. I go to places like LA, Miami. Really, and people the same one. And whether it's the long person.
I mean, it's not.
Excuse me. I was just. These are my parents.
Well, I have to say,
Well, maybe we say, I thought it was. They didn't say my last. That's why you see that. Those are the bottoms rivers. You got just left over. Oh, those switches up there. Switch offs. You're right, this is the best.
Well, I was there, I went to Los Angeles, San Diego.
Stationary every Monday.
So I was just Absolutely. So we literally had to do this, getting transferred to Washington.
Matter of fact, I was going to he's at medical.
No, I wouldn't let it occur.
That's what I told him. Okay, you look on line. And I said, I can't do that.
Yeah. Gave me her car.
Picture of the shoes.
Would be great, but I'll get another.
No, no, just talk about your.
Well, they can be the kind of. And get some.
And I got. All I wanted was this.
We can do that. I think every time she watches, every time, and I think it's good.
Just. Well,
Well.
speak of versus. I'm sure we're still in. And so. You bet I do. You got your card and number. Yeah. I do, when I hear people. I was saying, it'll be so much fun.
Yeah, with the points and. Yeah, let's know it's, I tell you, I'll be back. Very much higher than you can have. Well, I mean, it's like. That's how you do that. It really matters. So I go back to that. Whatever it is, but I'm gonna. That's.
It's not all bad.
Yeah, he's. Yeah. He was, he loved you.
No, he's got a cow. Thinks he's a puppy. Long and buying.
Yes.
Now it's this big red Angus that freaking thinks she's a puppy. Oh, yeah.
I don't go in the same pen, I don't
You
get
know?
pushed around. Yeah,
So how many? Well, how many times you're.
well, I wouldn't say that we officially train them, that we help them be sensitized, when we meet them and stuff. Like, and now it's really cool, is the US Army, 4 guns, we have 4 guys that are now in our competition.
Okay.
It is so cool, yes, yes. I guess they weren't allowed to compete with civilians, and then they found them gold. And so in July is when they were able to compete. So they've been helping. They are.
Don't swear, just. Well, I mean, it's a lot of time. I'm strong. If you get a couple guys and get over here going, so
We
yeah.
have one running.
Yeah.
So if you know where the old Masonic Lodge used to be, that counter to, or so we were back there.
You get that one.
our range back up to the cave drops. The cave was down on the west side. And then it was Stewart family. Howard Stewart.
Oh,
yeah.
I was sad to lose that, you know, just like, not much you can do. It's good. Do you have any other front of the road, are they all going back and where they at?
So we were there from Patty's on until we bought the property here and we moved here. So I guess the range is in a lot. We only live there for 91 years.
I'm really now. Yeah, it's growing, but it's not.
Because we moved here.
Yeah, you gotta listen, but you know, I think one thing Lucas kind of argued is that there were hundreds of.
So here. No, it's been, it was for a while.
It's crazy.
It's been 37 years and yeah, it was for a while. Once in Montana earlier, it was like everything was pushing.
Trees around it.
Oh, he was.
Don't wait for them to come. It's like it's the. It's not.
Oh, they said.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah, it's just.
I'll say $100 a month.
My brother was that. But it was residents from Texas, he said, years back. And the dog.
We can't write this.
So that was the one structure. He was based on. We looked at it's too big, we went up to one. Like, oh my God, it's too big. You know, this is too big, because you had to get on freeways to make these house calls and just drive. nuts. I can see that. I can see that.
Because you got one time.
So you,
Did you know that?
no, you know what? My daughter, and when she, I said, like, I said, what brought you guys? I said,
What a blessing.
exactly, a lot.
Everybody,
Yeah, but it's a perfect strategy. I think it's a great idea. It's just like, really want to go.
You know.
It's really hard to go. We tried every year since to get tickets, you know, for the lottery and.
My kids were just happy to have $200 eyes on.
Same thing, I had a friend that went, he came back, gave me like, we'll do that, every time he was like.
I know. It's.
He said the TV, that he was, right, just, that he would mortgage the letters.
Everybody I've ever talked to that went in person said it's,
Cause on TV, it was.
you're looking at the scenery versus the golfers just because it's so big.
I've never been.
I've been either, I've watched it a lot, but yeah.
Well. So
That's what I
we're
did about the beach. I would
come get you. Yeah, we'll see. You bring that. Insurance companies. And they're not $200.
We played it right up to.
There's a course in Orange County that's where the.
So I called them, they said, well, you should.
It's too, it's really nice. On the name that you stay there for
It's a beautiful course.
So you gotta kind of call her some things. This is it's like, you know, credit farming, like, Lexus,
Yeah, I played one.
they control all the claims on and who got the old way. This is not right, well, it's on.
Did a number.
He's over there for a software company, because it's on it, we got to play, it's like the next day,
It's not mine.
going to drive the raw.
So they remove
And it keeps maybe 2 hours.
So called the insurance company, okay, they were really one thing, they were passing back up. No.
It's unreal.
I mean, they realize that.
It's anywhere here. I think it's cute.
They have to serve every year because.
So. You're in for 3 years? Oh, you're doing good. I think I'm paying.
That's wristband.
This
I'm turning it up, well,
Everybody is.
I noticed it.
That's what I saw.
I'm just working, but. No, it's,
I've got two.
it's just reading, so I mean, but it's all just, it's all. Yeah. For 3 years, like, while waiting in council. I'm just gonna slowly make it through the.
Keep your mind active.
Keep you awake, yeah. Keep you awake, these things, otherwise.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I think-
Yeah.
One of the games,
Yeah, we got.
I like the games. It's older, but I don't. Because I said a little bit.
I have one, I see.
Yeah. I have.
Oh, really? It's fine. I don't. I get to do, I do most of.
I just thought-
I'm here, I'm just saying.
Nicer to actually.
Yeah, just put me at the end.
Yes.
That way too, I don't, they have all the cameras and stuff, I don't have any reaction to anything that's on, I just let them
You don't
on.
wanna do that to just everybody.
And like,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just zoned out.
But-
Just
Yeah.
It's just.
switch to the new thing, but, yeah, my whole, they all do.
They have a lot
New
of.
York Times, that one's great.
Yeah, crosswords?
Yeah, it's.
That and like, they have like a wordle.
But.
Oh, yeah.
Connection, people do it with that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
About safe.
Oh, my goodness.
Stuff that- that's so-
It is actually-
Insurance.
Four.
Yes, yeah, they showed me that, I
That's
was
pretty
like,
awesome. Yeah. That's good.
that's crazy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. That.
They do that every day.
Yeah.
Which I mean, like, this is what it seems like most you're working guys. Let's stay now.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I said, I was looking, I actually, I checked my out. We have.
Yeah.
Always professional, so they got.
Yeah.
Like this.
CBS.
Ninety seventeen. Number one, no action taken. Number two is on the agenda. Number three, no action taken. Council, public participation. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a public meeting appearance card presented to the town secretary. Please indicate on the form if you wish to speak during the discussion on a specific item. Remember, council members are not allowed to answer questions during public participation, and please state your name and address for the record.
I have received that.
Thank you. Appointed representative report, Upper Trinity. What's in here? Number two, Dane County Emergency Service Chief Ron.
Good evening, Mayor Council. Nice to be on this side of the room, and I hope this is my better half. Y'all look good. We're obviously starting a new fiscal year. We're staying busy. We ended up with fiscal year about 3,700 calls, so we're probably on track for the calendar year being over 3,800, close to 4,000 calls. So we're growing. Just for perspective, in September, we had 348 calls, and a year ago in September, we had 253. So almost 100 more calls in a month. So just growing is we're just trying to keep up with it. Also, this time of year is very busy with our community programs. We do a lot of stuff in the schools. We are super involved. It's just that time of year. The weather's nice, prevention. We did national night out here. We had about, I think, 6 or 7 events across the district. Thankfully, a lot of our communities didn't do them all the same night, because it makes it really hard for all the firefighters to get everywhere, so. Worked out really good, sometimes we get lucky, and thankfully, some of the communities had them on different nights, so that was good. We had our second community advisory stakeholder meeting on October 2nd. That was really cool. Of course, the mayor and the police chief was there, and so we had all the town mayors and managers there as well, and a lot of our community stakeholders, including our school districts. And it was good. It was opportunity to spend a little bit more time talking about what we're up to. And the biggest thing we talked about in there is we completed our 3-year strategic plan. You probably will end up getting a copy of this. We're just kind of cleaning it up and just getting the final version of that. But back in June, our ESD 1 and 2 board members, they met in June, did a 2-day workshop where we worked, did the typical scan your environment, do your strengths and weaknesses, and your SWOT analysis, and all those things to come up with some strategic initiatives that we went on to develop goals and objectives and deliverables and things like that. The thing we want to go over the next 3 to 5 years. So it's going to give us a good roadmap where we need to go as we move forward. So very excited about that. I'm very proud of all the teamwork and everything coming together to make that happen. Other thing we did just recently, we had our very first vaccine clinic. It was a pretty good success. We teamed up with Albertsons. We did it at Station 511 there on Gibbons Road, and we gave out over 50 vaccines in a very short period for something that was very limited exposure as far as trying to get the word out. We had 33 people came in, and we gave up over 50 vaccines. So it was a really good, big hit. So we'll probably end up doing that again. We're always looking for ways to give back to the community, so I think it's important. Something I truly believe in. So I'm glad that turned out to be a success. In November, we don't have all the details. It looks like on November 11th, we're going to try our very first flag retirement ceremony. I guess that's the right, we won't say burning the flag. That's not a good term way to say it, but we're working with the Boy Scouts. They've got a bunch of old tattered flags. I know I personally have a couple myself, and we're going to be doing a kind of dignitary way. It's good. It's going to be at Fellowship of the Parks Church. It's actually in North Lake on 407. We're working, they've been asking to do something, and so we're gonna work with them. So it's gonna be there. We think it's gonna be probably between 1:30 and 3:30. It will be open to the public. We're trying to find a place where people can easily accessible. They can drive in, drop off their flags if they want to come back. They want to stay for the kind of more ceremonial part, they can. And so hopefully we'll see how that goes. So it'll be a first time. I'm excited about that. And again, it's a good thing to do. It's the day before Veterans Day, so I think it's a good thing to do. Then, of course, right around the corner, we got Santa Claus, so we're getting the vehicle ready that we go around town doing all the for all the kiddos.
December 7th for us.
Oh, yeah, we'll be doing y'all's tree lighting, yeah, we'll be here for that. So we're actually expanding, as you can imagine, so we got a couple neighborhoods we gotta look at, how we're gonna do the driving routes, but it usually starts probably right around after Thanksgiving, and just the whole season. Our firefighters, they really enjoy doing it. It's kind of become a tradition thing for them and their families. I've seen that just the kids come up, and they've got pictures, and so they do it on their own time off. They do it, they volunteer to do it, drive the fire engine around, and they get a big kick out of it, so it's a lot of fun. So again, we're just a lot of busy this time of year, and I enjoy it. The weather starts to cool off from the heat of the summer, so it's always nice to get out in the community, and this is why we do this. So, but that, I'll take any questions you have.
I just want to say thank you for coming out for National Night Out. We
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It's
Good turnout. I'll tell you what, I was at North Lake before that one. They had one over in Canyon Falls, and I came here and y'all had much better food. Marty B's helped, like they say. Marty B's is the place, I'm telling you, and for those, we had a pretty big event recently, and had a helicopter flying. I'm sure that was all over the social media. So I've never thought, Bartonville would be the heartbeat of the political center, epicenter. So yeah, it was kind of neat, and so a lot of buzz, and of course, we didn't provide any service. I think Pete probably had to do more than we did, but we did help with the landing zone, setting that up for, I think they had a helicopter come in. So, but anyways, exciting times in Bartonville.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for all that y'all are doing in the
Well,
community.
thank you.
Thank you.
Police Department, September 2024 statistics and activities chief.
Good evening again, and yes, we want to thank the fire department. Did an excellent job, and Marty B's and Piggy. It was a really nice event. This is my first one here. I definitely like it being centrally located in different, little pockets and neighborhoods. It just was a really great event. We had a good, nice weather for it. I'll get to our report. As you can see, we are down in calls for service. Part of that is, y'all know we're shorthanded. We just swore at one of our new officers, so we'll get him out in December. I'm sure these numbers will come up. It's a good thing to be lower calls, though. I like that, they can keep going down as far as I'm concerned. We'll just let the fire department keep going up. We'll just back you up, chief, okay? You just keep going.
I needed the song.
A lot of the calls, as you know, we have alarms and then, and I apologize, Councilman, Crandall, for some reason it didn't break them down this time. It was supposed to be commercial and residential. I gotta talk to my, lieutenant about that anyway. So we had 12 and I was like, how did that get changed back? Anyway, we'll have that for you next month. Me complaining, we had 8, we did have 7 accidents this past month. And then if you look at our uniform crime report, we did have 9 larcenies, but those were not all at once. Bartonville, Kroger held those for 2 weeks, so they had those and they just did them all at once. They were the thefts there at Kroger. Our crimes are up, part 1 crimes are up a little bit, still very low. Our self-initiated is down as well, just because we have, we're waiting to get some more officers on the street. And, one of the things that I do, hopefully you've noticed the new carpet, the new paint. So we're excited about that, doing a couple other nice little things to the town. It's looking really sharp in my opinion. But with that, any questions at all?
Thanks for your help on the department in here. So appreciate you stepping up.
You bet.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Chief.
Administration Secretary Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. September was year end. Some of these numbers will probably change as we go through the audit, and I'm still getting a couple of invoices that need to be paid out for fiscal year 2024. So those numbers will change a little bit, but right now we're in pretty good standing. On page 22 of your packet, it's the all general fund revenue. If you look at that, we are over 500,000 in revenue. So it looks pretty good, and I don't think that part's not gonna change some of the expenses as well, but we did pretty good. And as much as Thad was able to project and everything with the different rates and how things changed out a little bit this year over your last year's tax splits with BC and EDCs and stuff like that, how it changed a little bit. This is looking really good.
Good.
Municipal court revenues, I wanted to bring your attention to that. We are over by 17,000, which is also helping out with, as we've been talking about the last couple of months, we are a little over on expenses because the prosecutors' rates changed mid-year, so that really helps over. But overall, revenues are higher than budgeted. On page 23 of your packet, it's the graph for this sales tax collection. We are still continuing a slow increase over the tax collections right now, and I'm learning how to look and see the trends and stuff like that. So it's been very beneficial for me to start looking at these. You have any questions so far? Okay, and then page 24 of your packet, the all general fund expenditures. We have around 55,000 left budget wise. That will go down with the other couple of weeks. They're mostly monthly ones, but we did have a significant bill that we need to pay that came in today. So that'll come down just a little bit, not too much, but I think everything's been covered on the expenditure sides which is both PD and admin and court and the transfers. Transfers is a little high this month because we had to do a budget transfer from general fund to our reserve, and it encompassed both fiscal year 23 transfer that was not done, and then the 2024 fiscal. So we actually transferred a little over $255,000 from general fund into reserves, just to make sure that the reserve is healthy and we keep moving forward. That had to be done before September 30th. Page 25, the expenditures by department administration. Again, we are still, we have over 170,000 left in, budget, so pretty over everything, we're pretty much under budget, which is good. You have any questions on that page?
Zero capital improvements.
Correct. We did not, do anything out of that.
So none of the. Okay.
That came out of building maintenance, but according to the auditors, that may change to go under capital.
Thanks. Yeah.
And then on page 26, is your expenditures by department for the police department. Overall, we're still under budget by 64,000. Again, that'll change just a little bit. But right now, even with the new invoices received this week, we should be under budget. Expenses for all over, except for municipal court, but I think that's gonna be covered with their overage and revenue. Anyone have any questions on that report? Okay, and then we also have the quarterly investment report in here. And again, bless you. But the last quarter investment, we did have a little decrease in the investment since towards the end of the year, we don't have a lot of property tax income coming in. So that's why it's looking down negative, and it should be okay. But for the quarter, we did earn over $58,000 in interest alone. Anybody have any questions on the investment report? The book value goes down because we don't have a lot of the income coming in from property taxes that we get in the first 2 quarters of the year. And so we're using what's been in our account. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jim. Consider agenda. This agenda consists of non-controversial housekeeping items required by law, items may be approved by single motion. Items may be removed from the consent agenda by any council member by making such a request prior to the motion to vote on the consent agenda. Number 1, consider approval of September 17, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Number 2, consider approval of September 30th, 2024 special meeting minutes. The motion.
Make motion to approve consent agenda number 1.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Public hearing and regular item, due to proximity of our property, this subject property in the next agenda item, Councilmember Sands and I will be recusing ourselves in the duration of this next agenda item. Mayor Pro Tem Chapman will lead the discussion.
Yeah, number 1, discuss and consider a final plat for 101.467 acre property situated in Annual Coast Survey, abstract number 230. And Coastal Survey, abstract number 1594. In the town of Bartonville, Benton County, Texas. This property is located on the north side of East Jeter Road, approximately 2,180.5 feet east of the intersection of East Jeter Road, Country Court in Bartonville, Texas. This application constitutes a revision of an approved final plat on project file FP 2024-003. The applicant is Mikowski and Associates Inc. on behalf of 9 Development Group LLC. Town of Bartonville filed for FP 2024-004. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote 5-0 as October 2nd, 2024 meeting. Staff presentation, right?
Thank you. Good evening, members of council. So this is the staff presentation for, once again, the Knights Landing final plat. Project number FP 2024-004. So this is a final plat that is intended to create 15 residential lots within the property. And as this is probably familiar to y'all, this was a final plat that was approved earlier this year by council for the same subdivision. However, the developer has opted to resubmit the final plat in order to designate Bison Way, which is the street that serves the 15 lots within the development, from a public street to a private street. That way they can gate it off and it becomes kind of like more of an enclave type of development. The final plat in the packet before you, still contains lot sizes ranging from about 6 acres to about 8.38 acres. And, the public infrastructure or the infrastructure in total includes a private street, a public water line to serve all 15 lots, and on-site sewer or septic services for all the parcels within the development. As was stated in the introduction, the project encompasses 101.467 acres out of 4 original tracts owned by the developer. It's located on the north side of East Peter Road, approximately 2,185 feet east of the intersection with Country Court and East Peter Road. There are 4 approval criteria within the Bartonville Development Ordinance that staff evaluate when looking at a final plat. The first is whether the final plat conforms with the approved preliminary plat or other studies and plans. So the preliminary plat that was originally approved by town council showed the 15 lots with approximately the same acreages. There were some very minor adjustments when the first final plat came to you, just to even out some of the acreages between the different lots, but nothing of much substance whatsoever. And so the final plat for you tonight does match that approved preliminary plat. There's a public water line easement adjacent to the Wyson Way Road that will again provide water service to all the lots. And the development utilities and services are proportionate to what's available, meaning that the road is sized appropriately to serve the residential lots within the development, as is the water line, and the lots are sized in order to accommodate future septic service to the residences. Number 2 is whether there's the complete engineering and construction plans for all required public improvements in town utilities have been submitted. The town engineer has reviewed and approved the public water line civil plans, which is really the only public utilities that are being incorporated into this development. And so that's been taken care of. That actually was following my completion of this presentation with confirmation of that approval of the public water line. The third criterion is whether the plat conforms to the applicable zoning and other regulations. So the town did approve a zoning change to this property last year. And the current zoning of the property is residential estates 5, meaning that there's a minimum 5 acre lot size requirement for any subdivision within the zone. All the lots in this final plat exceed that 5 acre minimum. They also all meet the lot width, frontage, other dimensional standards. So we don't just look at the lot acreage, but we want to make sure that there's a certain amount of frontage abutting a street, so that you don't have a bunch of lots kind of consolidating and crammed up against maybe a curve in a street or whatnot. So those are all standards that are in the Bartonville Development Ordinance and the zoning ordinance. And then finally, whether there, if there are on-site sewage facilities, that the final plat has been reviewed by the registered sanitarian for the town of Bartonville. This has been incorporated into a recommended condition of approval, such that that would be taken care of before the final plat is recorded. So as was stated on October 2nd, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this proposed final plat and unanimously recommended approval with conditions. The recommended conditions are as follows. Number 1, again, the review of the final plat and accompanying planning materials by the registered sanitarian prior to recordation of the final plat. The second recommended condition is that the final plat shall not be recorded until either A, all required public improvements, i.e. the water line, have been constructed and accepted by the town, or in some cases that the utility service agency that's responsible for it, or B, the town has received an appropriate surety for from the applicant, generally in the form of a performance bond for those improvements. Condition 3 is that prior to recordation, the town approval signature box needs to be updated to read final plat. These last 3 are just kind of some minor typo corrections. Number 4 is that prior to recordation, owner's dedication needs to remove all references to the dedication of the street in fee simple, because again, it's going to be a private street, so it's going to remain within an easement and not dedicated to the city or the town. And then finally, number 5, prior to recordation, the dedication section needs to reference the correct lot and blocks as are laid out in the subdivision. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thanks, sir. Any questions? Is the applicant here? Nobody's here.
Doesn't appear so.
So discussion, yes.
Yeah, I have, since this is going from a public to a private, I do have one initial concern here. I don't know that there's been any, depth established for how far back that gate should be. And what my concern is, these are 6 and 8 acre lots. I drive a truck and a trailer quite often. So that gate needs to be set back far enough to where a truck and a trailer can come in and go completely up to wherever they punch the code to get in or whatever they do and not be hanging out into the street. That's about 55 feet for a truck and a trailer of say 30-foot length, Jim. I mean, and the right of way on the road is that, am I correct? Is that a 60-foot right of way?
Yes.
So that should be enough. I was thinking around 45 feet would be enough to be able to swing the truck in through there.
Yeah, because it's kind of on the curve right there too.
So I don't know if the current plans have taken any of this into consideration.
It doesn't identify the location of the gate.
Okay, so my thought is we set a condition for that to make sure that this doesn't become a traffic hazard at some point in time in the future. And tell me if I'm out of line or.
No.
You can go ahead and put that on there. Okay, so that's my one comment, so.
I agree with you. I agree with all the time. It's difficult to get. You get on my own property, your own gate. I have a hard time getting it because of.
Yeah, me too. I mean, but I live on a cul-de-sac, so it makes it a little easier, but. Yeah, I just didn't want to be a problem, not only for the person driving the truck and trailer, but the people coming through.
So your recommendation or your request would be that the gate setback no less than 55 feet from the edge of the East Utica right of way?
Yes.
Okay.
And that the entrance to it be at least, say, 45 feet wide, just to accommodate the ability to turn, swing the truck and get the trailer in without dropping into the ditch, hitting the culvert, collapsing the culvert in the future.
The gate opening shall be 45 feet wide?
Yes,
So I said,
yes.
Did you have something, Chris?
What about the north end? Anything on the north end?
The north end, that feeds into Hat Creek, and that's a straight, that's supposed to have a dot box on it,
mhm.
so that it's only accessible by, emergency, services. So that's not, there won't be a through street.
That was a condition from your previous approval, and that's carried over into this one.
Right, so that would be. Okay, yeah.
You got to establish.
Okay.
It's,
I'm sure whatever doesn't mention it includes, includes the five conditions already stated in the first one.
Plus the condition.
Any further discussion? Right, motion.
Just see here, let's see, I make a motion that we approve the final plat, for the 101.467 acre property situated in Daniel Cook Survey Abstract number 230 and the AM Delta Survey Abstract 1594 in the town of Bartonville, Texas, Denton County, or Bartonville, Denton County, Texas. Subject to the conditions in the original proposal plus the condition that I made herein today. Is that sufficient?
yeah.
Second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Chief, would you mind grabbing the mayor?
Number two, conduct a public hearing to hear public comment discussing considered ordinance amending the town of Bartonville. Ordinances chapter 8, section 8.02.001. Conform to recent revisions to the Texas Local Government Code section 229.003 and added section from firearms prohibitions. for mounted shooting competition training or exhibition. The applicants are Stacy and Ronnie Smith, town of Bartonville, file number ZC 2024-003. Planning and zoning recommended approval of a vote by 4-1-0 at its October 2nd, 2024 meeting. Staff presentation.
Very good. So once again, council, I'll be giving the staff presentation on this item. We're just calling it a firearms code amendment. And just to be clear, while we gave it a ZC, which is the zoning code amendment, generally a designation for the proposal number. This isn't actually a zoning code amendment. This is actually an amendment to chapter 8 of the code of ordinances, which is outside of the zoning code. However, we did give it just for tracking purposes, the number of ZC 2024-003. So this is the proposed text amendment to Bartonville Code of Ordinances, chapter 8, section 8.02.001, subsection B, which is the exceptions to the weapons article within the code of ordinances. Which in the proposal from the applicant is to add a new subpart 5 that will permit the discharge of blank cartridges from firearms on agriculturally zoned property with prior notice to the town marshal. And again, this specific request was submitted by Stacy and Ronnie Smith and had specific language that was requested by the applicant that was initially considered when taken to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So BCO section 8.02.001 prohibits the discharge of firearms within town limits. However, subsection B currently identifies 4 exceptions to this provision. First is that if it's a licensed peace officer discharging a firearm in the line of duty. Second is if it's for theatrical, ceremonial, or military activities. Third, if it's just by use of deadly force or self-defense or whatnot. Or fourth, if it's in the ETJ or an area annexed after September 1st, 1981, with some restrictions as far as the types of firearms and whatnot. So that's what's currently in the code regulating the prohibition on firearms. So again, the request submitted by Stacy and Ronnie Smith was to add another subsection under that exceptions section that would allow blank cartridges to be discharged for training or exhibition specifically on agriculturally zoned properties. So when we were going through this process, Mr. Voss, our town attorney, reviewed the proposal and did some legal review on recent legislation that affects general law city's ability to regulate firearms discharge and some of the exceptions language. And so between the time we met with Planning and Zoning Commission and tonight, there was some, rather significant massaging of the language to fully align with the recent legislation that affects the town specifically because we are in a certain county with certain population and proximity to other cities of a larger population. It's very specific in the law, and Mr. Voss can elaborate on that if needed. So what's before you in your exhibit is actually language that aligns with the spirit of what was requested by the Smiths as far as permitting the discharge of blank cartridges for mounted shooting practice or exhibition, which is the use that they have historically been doing and want to codify. And B, to include additional language that conforms to the recent legislation that affects Bartonville as far as its ability to regulate the discharge of firearms and what exceptions are appropriate and authorized and kind of directed by state law. And so that's what we have here. House Bill 4559. Is it 2023? Was that a typo? Was that? Yeah, sorry. It was 2023, not 2013. So that amended Texas Local Government Code, section 229003. And so, again, this amendment combines the requested amendment language, not as specifically as was requested, a specific language that was submitted, but also adds the additional considerations to align with Local Government Code 229003. So with that in mind, again, although Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend the initial proposed language, what we have before you is, again, adjusted or amended based on our town attorney's legal opinion and advice. And again, the proposed language before you maintains the spirit of the request while also providing additional corrective language to this section of the Bartonville Code of Ordinances to align with state law. Mr. Voss can clarify anything or elaborate if needed, but that concludes my presentation on this item. Thank you.
Mayor and council, I can add a little bit to that.
Which you think?
If you look on page 66 of your packet, what I've included there is a red line version of existing section 8.02.001. And then the red line changes I've added are in two categories. The first category is taking the requested amendment by the applicant in this matter, not making it a separate exception number 5, but including the idea of the request into existing exception number 2 in the B. We already have an exception there that allows the use of black cartridges for theatrical productions, ceremonial or athletic purposes, or military organizations. What was being requested by the applicant is to notify the town marshal of the use of black cartridges. As it turned out, the explanation was on their property for mounted shooting competition, training, or exhibition. And it was explained, and the applicant will explain more tonight in a way better than I can, but essentially the mounted shooting competition, training, or exhibition is simply the use of black powder and notifying the town marshal of those uses this time around to codify in a way that's consistent with our exceptions, rather than changing it to something that I don't believe is appropriate under the state law by zoning designation. So this doesn't limit it to a particular area zone. It's stated in a way just like the other exceptions. The second category of the red line changes all take into account the modification of state law during the last legislative session and the population changes in Denton County and the city of Dallas in Dallas County, because the subsection in 217 of the local government code, they got modified that ended up changing the kinds of population and the kinds of exceptions, so that essentially what we're doing is updating our code to match what state law says. Section 217.003 of the local government code. So all the red that you see there is merely incorporating the state law change or the state law provisions, just like we've done before under a different subsection, chapter 217. But now, due to the population changes, there's a different section that applies, and so now we're caught up with that. Any questions on that, Andrew?
And that includes the parenthetical C as changes conforming to the revisions in state law?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the person there. Applicant, thank you.
Thank y'all so much for helping us with this. You know, Bartonville, and we've all gone through this, through all the different votings, is to keep it country. And we've lived here for 28 years, almost 29 years. And we do this sport competitively. So we took it very seriously to make sure that as there was growth going on, that hopefully with your counsel and your help, we can be able to continue to do this. And so during the last meeting, we actually had a police officer here that had tested the decibels. We actually, during the practice we had been approved to do, so at the very end of September, we got to meet not the Double Oak Chief of Police, but the gentleman right underneath them. And I'm sorry, I can't think of his name right now. But he came out just to look at this, get to know this, was very impressed, actually wants to come do it. So the purpose though of this is, and I want to make sure, and I even said this in the P&Z, our purpose is not to come in and try to change ordinances or codes. Our purpose is, as as we think of Bartonville as country and our home is to be able to continue to do what we have historically been doing, but also to not make it a burden upon our Bartonville police officers. In the past, we have always notified, I think his name was Bobby Dow was the chief before. That was our agreement. I'd call and I'd leave a message, hey, we're gonna practice on these days. We don't practice that often. But we did go ahead and make sure that the blanks were below the decibels, so we had that tested. We've also, after this session that we just did, or this practice we did for World, we just got back from World. You know, we went and visited with Stephen and Terry that had moved in next door to us in the trifecta. We visited, actually, we only got to talk to them on the phone, but Kirk Esmond and his partner trying to meet the new neighbors moving in, and we've not run into any opposition. The only problems we ever had is the neighbor that's been on the south side of us that we've always had. So, but again, what we're hoping with your council, Ed, and everything is not necessarily change the ordinance, but to make sure we can keep doing this and it's not a problem to Bartonville, that they can say, hey, you know, this is approved, and that we know what we need to do to be able to do that. Any questions?
And you're not, this is not for business, this is just for your personal training people.
Yeah, so as you know, we have we have our property, but we also board horses.
Right.
And we are not a training facility. It is our hobby. I work full time. But we've had people gravitate that we've met that do it with us. So some questions that Pat had asked is, you know, if you were to look at between my daughter and my husband and the few that do it is maybe 8 or so people. I'm not trying to put a number to it, but we do in our practices, we're very horsemanship oriented. So our practices are very much working horses, doing a lot of ranch type patterns, you know, to get them to learn to go forward and come back with ease. And our actual shooting is very minimal. We typically practice before big competitions. So like we just had that annual, like I call it a clinic, but it's not a public clinic, that we do to get ready for AQHA and Cowboy Mounted Shooting World. So we just did that. And then we have the stock show in January. So typically we'll practice a day. We have Paint World in July. And again, not trying to put a cap on it, but we don't really practice that often with the actual blanks.
I bet you probably do a lot of dry fire shooting, because those blanks aren't cheap.
Exactly. Yeah. And just something else that was very interesting that we clarified in that when God, my brain just lost a name, but anyway, when we had our police officer here, one of the things that was mentioned, and it brought light to me, when we do the firing, it's actually has less noise than when they're using the guns to put roofs on. So if you can picture when you're hearing a roof, it has less noise than that. So it's not, it's just black powder. There's nothing else in them. They're crimped at the end. They're not meant to you know, and we do them inside of like the Fort Worth Stock Show. So you're inside of Coliseums. If you can imagine, if it was super loud, people wouldn't be able to sit in there and hear it.
How often do you go ahead? I was just gonna ask you, how often do y'all do this?
If you wanted me to give you an example historically, like let's say 2023, when we would just let Bobby Dow know. We've never done it more than once a month, but because of competitions, I would say maybe 6 times a year.
Okay.
You know, because when you're in competitions, you're gone. You come back, horses need a break. You're not trying to be out there just shooting. You go back and you do a lot of slow work and get their minds good again, you know.
Take us through the process that
as you're doing this competition, as to what dictates as to when that firearm is used and what purpose does that serve? What's the end result? What are you looking for?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you practicing on the property or the actual competition itself?
The actual competition and the
Oh,
noise
sure.
that.
Yeah.
How does that all work?
So it's a speed event with balloons that are set on sticks,
Okay,
basically, and you maneuver through a pattern, and the black powder just kind of creates this little fire burst,
okay,
and it pops the balloon. So your goal is to be the fastest and clean.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that,
And I've got a video if you want to see it.
I was curious as to how that.
Well, you're having to shoot left, shoot right.
Yeah, so you'll come in and you'll hear, you can cross
Do you have to
over.
alternate every other one or?
No, they're different patterns.
So you have to be in pretty close proximity to those rooms for that.
Your spread, your spread is, 10 to 12 feet is probably, there are some shooters that can have, or that do have longer guns. Or they're Colt 45, so they're old tiny, not tiny, but they're pistols.
Just after popping up the balloons, there's a horse and a fire was trying to get on a horse that's not been around a firearm. You got hair in your arm, and you got go.
Well, you definitely have to make sure they're trained and desensitized, but the horses that, again, it's not that loud, and we actually put the little round like rubber or fuzzy things in their ears.
Is that pretty popular going forward?
It's pretty big. We just got back from World and there were, almost 400 entries.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then, because it's now all over the country, there's a lot of people in the Western and Eastern that will go to the majors there, but maybe don't always come to World. But like AQHA had their largest numbers this year. They had 190 just in AQHA, the American Quarter Horse. So it's definitely growing.
So,
Very interesting.
I have a quick question. So with the changes made, they would still have to give notice to the chief, okay?
And we're okay with that. That's what we did before. And then what happened was, so originally, when we very first started practicing, we got permission from Denton. We got permission from Double Oak and we got permission from Bartonville, because I didn't know who would get a call, just in case. And, then Denton and Double Oak, were like, you don't need to call us, we don't ever get any calls anyway, you don't need to let us know. So we continued to call Bobby Dow, and just typically I just leave a message, hey, we're gonna practice Saturday from 10 to 11 or 10 to 12, just wanna let you know. And so we were accustomed to, to always letting them know. That's how we did it in the past.
Well, this is mainly just to get someone as a matter of record, so that if any new citizen moves in that's afraid of guns or whatever, they call, complain, you can point to this ordinance that says, hey, we're allowed to do this. Right, okay.
Yeah,
Have you ever had any complaints from neighbors in the past?
only Troy and Regina Dale.
Okay.
But you have to remember too, they've been a complainer of everything we do, from dogs
They
to.
don't live there anymore.
No, I haven't met the new people yet, but no. But I will tell you that except for maybe their house, because they're closest to our arena, they're probably about a little less than their garage doors by a little less than 100 feet from our arena. They probably have the most sound issue of anybody that lives around us, because like the Kennemers can't hear it, Rachel can't hear it, my boys can't hear it when they're in our house. After we did the event, I asked Steven over there that lives in the trifecta, he kind of had that black house in the back. I just was curious, I'm like, just curiosity, did you hear anything? He said, no, we didn't even, we thought, they didn't hear it. So it's not that loud. The people behind us in Double Oak, those people that back up to our property, they said they can't hear it either.
Well, I was gonna ask, because I know where Rachel lives, and if she can't hear it there, you're probably looking at 150, 200 yards away. If it doesn't reach that sound, I don't think Anybody else have problems?
Yeah, and we had it tested. It does fall under the decibel requirements. Yeah,
Any questions?
thank you all.
Appreciate it. Time being 7:56, open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak in opposition?
I'm sorry, I was waiting for her. Cynthia Stamlin, if you want to.
I was just here as a resource on council for the Smiths and worked on the drafting, and the changes are great. We're fine with that, so we appreciate the consideration.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak in opposition? Time being 7:50.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure that everybody on page 63 of your packet was the one public input email that we received in favor of this item.
So that's the only one we got, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Janice. Time being 7:57, close the public hearing. Any discussion or?
No, I think only was a job presentation, you know.
I move that we, approve the amendment to ordinance, Town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Section 8.02.001, small b, exceptions to confirm to recent revisions to Texas Local Government Code, Section 229.003, and add an exception from firearms prohibition for mounted shooting competition, training, or exhibition.
So,
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Number 3, discuss and consider approval of the task order with Western Professional Services for engineering services for design phase 2 construction project in an amount not to exceed $80,000 and authorize town administrator to execute the same on behalf of the town. Staff presentation. Chris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Guess I should have done a pretty PowerPoint, but it really is just an extension of what we've done so far on Jeter. It goes approximately, we're targeting 1,650 feet. Where that is right as you make that last kind of curve before Gibbons, we end just on the other side of that. We're about 2,200 feet away from Gibbons on Jeter, so I would say, you know, we were targeting with this around the last one, around $1 million. And then we're probably the rest of it would be like 1.2 to get all the way to Gibbons on Jeter. And I think the plan here would be to go with what we did before, the GeoGrid. It's it's fair. It's held up really nicely. And driving it today, there's such a difference too. As soon as you hit that line when it's done, it's smooth. And then as soon as you get off, you notice what. So, that's the plan. If we can go a little bit further, I'd like to get away from the curve as much as possible. Maybe do an alternate just to see where bid prices go. But really targeting, I think, around $1 million for this next go round. However far that takes us.
we could get past that curve, 1,500 foot, whatever, that'd be good.
Maybe April, May.
Yes, Mayor. So, we have design, survey is gonna take about a month, and then our design will probably take, a month and a half, and that puts us close to December. There's a month bidding, and then getting everything coming to council, so we're probably looking, March, April, or May timeframe, getting it started. Honestly, to lay asphalt, the best time is then, you don't wanna do it in the cold months. January, February are not ideal. Asphalt kind of needs to be 50 degrees and rising. So concrete's kind of the same thing, but can be done with colder, with admixtures, but asphalt doesn't take as good, so.
Well, and also, Chris, if you know, which you may not know this now, but this happened in the last week, there's a spot up there on that.
Yeah.
That's breaking up, breaking up, it's right where they're putting that new road in, going to the nice landing.
Right, and it's so disappointing that they, right where we kind of ended it, on the end the piece where, but some of that is. I would say the road what we're doing is really not designed to take heavy, and they're running heavy loads on that.
Well, it'd be nice if they could get that, the bulk of all that traffic going in here, rather than before we put that.
Yes, sir, so I think it would be good, and just talk about with the math, it would timing out. If we're close, if we look up and it seems like they're close to finishing, we would wait. Until they finish that road so that there's no heavy equipment running on it and.
They'll just start with another end and bring it this way and leave it to the very end so that all the other traffic can tear that road up and then keep driving when they look gravel.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I think the plan is to kind of look at where Knights is at the end of this year. And then that could also help dictate, it's pushing it a month or two to avoid tearing up the new road is totally worth it, I would think.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other further questions?
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
A discussion?
Make a budget to approve the task order request for professional services and engineering. The design of each Cedar Road Phase 2 construction project, not to exceed $80,000 and authorize the town administration to exceed the same on behalf of the town.
All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Number 4, discuss and consider approval of request for proposals for solid waste and recycling services. Staff presentation, please.
Mayor, council, first of all, I want to thank Shannon and our town attorney, Mr. Boss, for going over this RFP. It was definitely a team effort. A lot of interesting reading. Back in June, city council had asked staff to bring back an RFP because our current contract will end December 31st. With that in mind, there were a couple of things that they wanted to emphasize in the RFP. One of them was a crane or swing arms when we have storms here, as we all know. A lot of tree branches down. Thanks again, Councilman Crandall, for his assistance through those storms, but that's in the RFP. Also, fuel was one of the things on options, there are alternative fuels, and then of course tires, and then wheels, metal wheels. So those are all in the RFP. If you look at the timeline there, we're breaking it down pretty close, but we think we can make the timeline. If approved tonight, it will go be posted tomorrow. And then, of course, you'll have your publications. Then there'll be question deadlines, then response deadlines that we have to respond to the RFP. And then on the proposals are due and opening bids will be at 10 a.m. November 13th. It's actually my son's 30th birthday, so it's a good day. Can't believe he's 30. And then after that, we will basically the process will be able to give us competitive RFPs and then look at those, evaluate those and bring those back to council for your approval on which one, if any, you want to award the bid to. At this time, we can take any questions. We can take any questions.
Well, I'll just start by saying thank you because there's nothing fun or exciting about the little drafted one. So thank you guys for giving us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Side job.
Yeah, it was a good side job. It was, you learn a lot about these things, solid waste, so it's always interesting, but any questions at all, y'all have to, we're more than happy to answer.
I just think, we move forward and get this done.
No questions. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the time you spent on it. I know you spent probably 2 days on it.
It was fun.
Thank you. Motion.
Yeah, I'm ready to approve this. I've already paid that 24 days deal.
All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Future agenda items. Time being 8:05, meetings.
And,
Oh,